Hi everyone, Georgie from Dawn Organics. Welcome to another video. Today I've got a very special guest, Keeley from Soy Shea. How you going, Keeley?
Good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm really excited and happy that you decided to do this and agreed to do this. So thank you very much.
Thank you for asking.
Of course. I mean, as I've said to you before, you are one soap maker, especially in Australia, that I really admire and I really look up to. And I have a lot of respect for what you've built for yourself. And I'm sure other soap makers, or soap makers that I've chatted with, have the same opinion. So you should be really proud of what you've done. We're all really proud of you and we all stand behind you.
Thank you.
And so the idea of the Soap Makers Lounge was just because there's not really a big soap making community here in Australia, and I thought I would create a playlist on my channel and just bring soap makers together, whether they're hobbyists or even if they make soap for a living and they've got a business, just so they can come together and have a chat, and it gives their viewers and their customers as well insight of their soap making journey. So I thought it'd be great to have you on board and give everyone opportunity to get to know you a little better.
It's perfect because so many people ask me and I've just never done my own video on it. So.
Oh, wow. Excellent. Great. So I just want to begin, saying what made you started to make soap? What was the driving factor for you to start making soap?
The soap side was more curiosity.
Yeah.
Soaping's actually one of the very last products I've added to the whole entire range, and it was one of those things. I was curious. I was looking for other products that I was making, and I stumbled across both Royalty Soaps and La Fille de la Mer, and I was watching their versions of making the products I was interested in, which were primarily things like scrubs. And then I just started watching their soap making videos and kind of got really curious about whether I could do it too. And I decided to give it a go. And then I decided that was my creative outlet and decided to add them into the business, and because people were asking me for them as well. So it started out of curiosity, but now it's my end of week reward. When I've got all the other work done, I can make some soap.
Well, that's great. Yeah. And I mean, because as you know, I've been watching your channel since you started it, and you create such amazing designs, and I can see what you mean when you say creative outlet, because it just shows through. It just shows in your products that's what you're passionate about, and I think customers and viewers really would relate to that.
Yeah. It's more. I used to do a lot of card making, scrapbooking, quilting, anything crafty I could do. But when I started making the candles and moisturisers, I didn't have time to do any of that anymore. I discovered that you can only do so much with wax in a jar, so much putting moisturiser in a jar. There's nothing you can really do with it. And yet the soap, you can use the colours, the designs and everything that I was missing from the other craft world. So
of course. I know exactly what you mean. And how long have you been making soap now? How long have you been doing it?
I made my first bar of soap in 2016.
Wow.
So I was making them for a good year before I decided to start selling them. And it was more of when I first started, I had another family member that was she was looking to start a business in soap. So I thought I won't, step on her toes and that sort of thing. I'll just make it for immediate family. Anyway, she decided she wasn't going ahead with it. And so 2017, I started selling it.
Okay, great. Wow. I would have thought you've been making it for a decade, at least a decade, because it's just so stunning. Your creations are so stunning. I just, in my head, thought you've been doing it for a really, really long time. I would not have known that's when you started. Yeah, that's great.
I've been creating since I was a little girl, really little. And I used to make stuff and Mum used to take it to work to sell, and I was probably only about 9 or 10 at the time. So I've always created, and that's kind of just flown through over time. And Yeah.
Yeah, well, it definitely does. You can definitely see that when you head on over to your website and you go on YouTube. You can definitely see that that you're a creative individual. It really shines through your products.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, everyone would. I know everyone would have that opinion. If they know who you are. Yeah. And so when you started soap making, when you started selling your soap, so that was, did you say in 2017?
2017 was when I started to sell the soaps.
Yeah.
But I've been selling I've had my business since 2012.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So about, just shy of 10 years now.
Yeah, almost up to 10 years.
Oh, okay. That's great. And so when you, where did you start selling? Where did you kind of think to yourself, where do I go from here now that I want to sell? What was the steps? What was the journey?
My granddad was my driving force behind selling. I'd actually been making candles. That's how I initially started off, was making candles and melts. Yeah. I've been making candles since 2010.
Okay.
And just as for myself, just the odd couple and things like that.
Yeah.
And then we went to visit my granddad one day for birthday celebrations, and he told me something he'd never told me before, which was that my grandmother used to make and sell paraffin candles way back in the 30s and 40s, but for lighting the home and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he said that she would then sell them to families that couldn't make them or didn't have time to make them. And he said it would be really good if I started selling my candles to people like she used to. And my granddad's grandmother actually raised him as a child.
Yeah.
So she meant the world to him. He actually passed away 2 weeks after telling me that story. He had leukemia, and I decided to follow his sort of wishes and started looking into how to sell. And then it kind of just grew on from there.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
it's getting a bit emotional for you. Yeah. Wow, that's,
And it's kind of just grown and grown from there. I started off with markets because that just seemed to be the thing to do at the time. It was still the internet was still, it had been around for a while, but still relatively new, and it wasn't something I thought I could do. Yeah. So I started with markets and then gradually built into the internet as well.
Wow. That's amazing. Wow. And that's obviously something I just learned about you as well. And wow, that's just, wow. I don't know what to say to that. Wow.
He's the driving force behind everything that gets done here.
Wow, excellent. And I always ask soap makers this, especially when they have, they've been doing it for a while, or if they have a business for a while, do you sometimes look back and think, wow, I can't believe my journey, I can't believe I'm here, I've made it this far.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I pull up photos of my very first soaps and things like that, and we often laugh about, me and my husband, we laugh about the very first candle I ever made. It was from a kit from Spotlight. It was tennis ball yellow and was meant to smell of lemon, and I don't know what happened to the fragrance. It drowned itself after the second or third burn.
Right.
It was just a disaster. But now, I've come so far from that awful candle. And I sit and look at my soaps from my first soap that I did way back when. And, I always keep little photos and look back on them.
Excellent. If you like, I can share those photos at the end. I usually do a slideshow at the end, and I can just show before and after. I think viewers would really like to see, if the journey, the creative journey.
Yeah, I can definitely find some of them out, because I've also, throughout that journey, I have changed business name as well. So I rebranded in 2017 to Soy Shea.
Okay.
And before that, I was known as Candles for Your Senses, because I only did candles.
Oh, yes, okay, right.
And then in 2016, when I started to introduce the creams and the sort of balms and that sort of thing, I decided I needed to rebrand so that people knew I did more than just candles. So I can definitely
how I've grown. And I remember. I think it was back in 2018. I think it was that I came. I didn't even because that was before I even started really making soap. I accidentally came across your YouTube channel because I don't know if you know Ellie from Ellie's Everyday.
No, I haven't heard of Ellie.
Okay, right.
Have to look it up.
Oh, yeah, she's great. She's in Brisbane as well, but she's more of a hobbyist. She's just a hobbyist in bread making and soap making, so she has quite a large following, like on YouTube and on social media. And I think because I first started watching her stuff, and then I think because it's geolocated, because she's in Australia and I'm from Australia, so I think that's the algorithm in YouTube. I think you popped up. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, who's this? Like Soy Shea. So I clicked on it, and then I just got hooked, and I just started watching. So since then, so that's how and I'm like, oh wow, that's great, excellent. She's great, fantastic. Definitely have a search her out. She's great. Yeah. Okay, so I was going to ask, how long have you been selling soaps, but you kind of answered that question. And the before and after, comparing it. Well, I will ask this, in terms of quality and skin feel, and obviously, additives, you weren't adding the same additives as you are now to make them more luxurious compared to, your first few creations. Yeah. So, in your words, in your mind, how would you describe the difference between the very first time and now?
It's come a long way. The first sort of soaps that I was making, I had in fact, I think I had about 6 or 7 different recipes.
Okay, right.
And then somewhere along the line, I decided to try shea butter in one of the soaps. And that was when I just fell in love with using shea butter in my products. And it really changed the whole feel of the soap. So I know a few people who have said that they don't like a lot of coconut oil in their soaps and would say that my coconut percentage is quite high, but the shea butter really changed it and gave it that more luxurious feel. So over time, I've definitely perfected it. And now I have about three recipes that I use for all the basic oils, and then I add into that all the different luxurious things, camel milk and that sort of thing. Yeah. So it definitely has changed over the years as I've learnt more.
Yeah, so I can safely assume shea butter is your favourite oil to work with.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Yes, I can relate to that. I love shea butter. I find it adds a silky, creamy feel to your skin. It's just, it's amazing.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Even when you get it raw out of the bucket, it's just beautiful on the skin. And then because not all of the shea butter actually saponifies when you even if you use a 0% super fat, there's still shea butter remaining in that soap. So you still get that really nice sort of moisturising effect from out of shea butter when you're using it. So it's not as drying as what if you don't include it. But to put it in balms and stuff's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I think from memory, because I've done a lot of research on shea, but I think by weight between 7 and 15%, it's a range, is unsaponifiable. So, even 0%, you'll get a 7% minimum superfat. So, depending how much.
If you use 100%.
Will depend. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It really does add to it, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's magnificent. Yeah. And since, well, I know you've had a business since 2010, but what were especially with soap, because soap in particular is just so saturated in the market. There are soap makers everywhere. At every market you go to, there's soap makers, on Etsy, eBay, everywhere. Wherever you turn, there's a soap maker. And what are some of the challenges you faced when you were trying to get your soap products out there?
A lot of it is about getting the customers to know you, what you have to offer, and why it wasn't so much about buying from me instead of another maker, but buying from me instead of the supermarkets was kind of the biggest challenge. Pretty lucky with where I am, because the markets that I actually go to, there's only 2 of us there, and there's not many known soap makers in our particular area. So usually if someone, I know on a lot of the groups, people will actually ask where to get soap from, and my name actually pops up a lot. So I'm pretty lucky that I'm not in a completely saturated area. Just because of that, the more people that are flowing through from the local area into the website, it pushes it out further. So I have been very lucky to be able to get myself into the area I have. But the one challenge was to convince people to buy handmade soap and not bought, and stuff. Why it's so much better than commercial soap. How balancing everything can actually make a much nicer bar of soap. And a lot of that came down to giving away sample after sample after sample. Just came back to the full bars.
I see what you mean. Because the supermarket, the commercial stuff has given just soap overall a really bad name. And a really bad reputation, but as you just said, handmade soap's different. It's real carrier oils you're using, and it's real ingredients, and it's, your skin just loves it. It soaks it up, especially when you're super fatted, and I can see what you mean.
So that has been the biggest challenge about getting my soaps out there, but now that I have got that sort of market, it does become easier once you've got your name out there. And I know you've said it to other people as well. There might be a lot of soap makers out there, but there's so many more people out there that need soap compared to the number of soap makers. So there's definitely room for all of us. And if we've all got different sort of ways of presenting, some of us like the all natural, some of us like I do the colours and the swirls. There's something for everybody out there. So
that's right, exactly. And that's and I know I keep mentioning Katie Carson in all my videos, but she's mentioned this is why I really respect her as well, is she goes, and she often buys other soap makers' soaps and reviews them and says they're beautiful, and she gives her opinion, and then people comment saying, how come you're giving other soap makers the thumbs up, you should try their soap, isn't it going to steal business away from you? And she's just said exactly what you just said now, but just in a different way, of that I can't make soap for everyone. The population's too large. There's everyone. There's room for everyone. And so I can totally relate to what you're saying as well. And I think we're not out to really copy each other or steal each other from each other. It's more inspiring each other, really.
And quite often you don't. It might look like you've copied someone, but you actually haven't. You just you're so in tune with each other and what's out there. I know that Lee from Wicked Lee Goods, we've done identical soaps and not even known, right down to the exact same colours, and released the videos the same week. And it's we couldn't have known that each other had done it. So.
Well, that's obvious. That's obvious. It's not something that you both intentionally did.
And I know Tiara's recently done a lavender soap, and I did one as well, and they look identical when you see them. And she happened to release hers first. I thought, oh no. But it was just one of those things. It just happened, and so you don't intentionally copy people. It just you just know what you like.
That's right. Exactly. And so like when you first started, especially with soap making as well, did you find it? And I asked this because you're really well established, and I find that it might be helpful for other soap makers that are wanting to start a business, pricing points. And did you find at the beginning that maybe you weren't buying as large quantities from your suppliers, and did you find that it was harder to make a profit when you first started?
It kind of was, yes. I kind of went in because I'd already had so many other products for sale, and I knew how much of a struggle it was to build up to a certain price point that you need. The way I then sort of set about costing the soaps was thinking, well, in 12 months' time, I want to be buying this volume of stuff, and I costed it by what I would like in 12 months' time. So in the first few months, I didn't make as much money per bar of soap, but it did mean that by the time I got my name out there, my price was set and I didn't have to change it, which which works well with customers. So in those first few months, yes, I did lose money, but by the time I was able to buy bulk, I've pretty much made all that back now, and my customers are happy. The price never changed.
Wow. That's actually one of the best advice I've heard. That's actually really good. That's fantastic. Because I think doing it that way, you're not creating so much pressure on yourself as well.
Yeah.
Like the way you've calculated, the way you've kind of planned it out in the 12-month period and stuff. Wow, that's actually, I never even thought of that. That's fantastic. I think that's really sound advice, actually. That's great. And what advice would you give, like, other soap makers that are thinking about, should I start a business? Shouldn't I start a business? What advice would you kind of give the new soap maker, I guess?
New ones? There's so much advice you can give to people the more you've been in business, but probably the thing I would say to most people is that it doesn't happen overnight. Yeah. It does take a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of mistakes to actually get to be a successful business. And if you found people that you actually aspire to be like and who you find really inspiring to do what you do, just remember that there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes than what you see. You don't see, like a few years ago, you didn't see me sitting on the sofa at night time wondering if I'd made, the biggest mistake of my life quitting my job and that sort of thing. You don't get to see that side of a successful business very often. So even though it looks like someone's got this, rosy life, a great successful business, it's not as rosy as you might think. So just keep going at it. It will happen, but it does take time.
Well, that's great advice as well. And I think, like you said, people just assume it's all been, rosy and rainbows and butterflies. But it's not. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's not.
I mean, I still go through those times now. You go through Christmas where you can't keep up with keeping stock on the shelf, and then you hit January and February and there's no sales coming in, and you just think, oh my God, what have I done? It's a roller coaster ride, and you've just got to be patient with it.
Yeah. Wow. Well, since you mentioned it, like just like give us some info of just what must have been going through your mind when you decided to leave your job. Like, what there must have been a lot of anxiety behind it. Like,
a lot.
Yeah. Wow.
It actually wasn't entirely my decision to leave. I actually did have another business at the time, and the candle making was more of a hobby. We had actually moved down from Cairns down to Brisbane. Yeah. And it was taking me, I think it was about an hour and a half each way to get to work each day. Then working my 8.5-hour shift. I was almost out the house for about 11.5 hours every day while I was working full time. And that was completely different from when we lived in Cairns, and I lived like 10 minutes away from work. Yeah. And the sort of travel and everything else was making me so sick. And my husband said to me, give up work and focus on your business and grow your business. And I was terrified because I'd always been brought up to be that sort of independent woman that I could buy my own bread, milk, all that sort of stuff. And I knew that giving up work meant that I wasn't going to be able to do a lot of those basics, and that I was going to be completely dependent on my husband to pay bills, get us all the basic shopping and all that sort of stuff. So it was terrifying. But I also knew if I didn't do it, I wasn't going to be able to grow my business. So it's scary. But what I did find is that by giving up work, I could then focus all of my time and energy on the business. And once I started doing that, things started moving a lot quicker than what they were.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I can imagine. I can just, I can see what you mean. And like what advice also would you give, like, for soap hobbyists like that haven't made their first batch of soap but are thinking about making their soap, like the very first batch?
if you're looking at making your very first batch, you have a plan, but be prepared to change that plan as well. You do what the soap wants you to do, and don't panic. The more you panic, the more it will go wrong, the more chances you have of actually hurting yourself. So always stay calm and do what the soap wants you to do.
Yeah. Wow, okay, yes. Oh, gosh, I remember my first batch of soap. Oh, my gosh. It was, I mean, it still felt great on the skin, but it melted away. It was 70% almond oil and 30% olive oil.
Oh, gosh.
So great on the skin, felt great, but I only got like maybe 3 washes out of it. It just like, it became, just melted and like that sticky, it was quite sticky and yeah.
I can only imagine with all that almond oil. But, you've got to do these things to actually learn it as well. I get asked so many questions about what oil should they use or what can I replace this with and that, those sort of questions. And the best answer is try it. See what happens, because then the more you actually try and experiment with these things, the more understanding you have of how things can actually work together. And you may stumble across a happy accident as well. It may turn out to be the most perfect thing you've ever created and sets the path for the rest of the way. So never be afraid to try different things.
Yeah. So since, we're talking on, about soap makers or beginner soap makers that haven't really, made soap before and they're kind of not sure, are there any videos that you've kind of have on your channel that you recommend viewers to watch?
I do have one, and it's all about how I prepare my oils and my lye water. Right. I give lots of tips in there about the way that works best for me, because it all works differently for everyone. But how I actually do it step by step to make sure that everything is right and ready to go. Okay,
great, excellent. And I'll provide a link of that down in the description.
Fantastic.
And my next question was going to be what your favourite oil to work with. I think we established that it's shea butter.
Shea butter is definitely my favourite oil, but I haven't yet made a single oil soap using shea butter. It's on my kind of wish list to do. So maybe one day that will be coming up, because I think there is someone who's done it. I just can't think who it is off the top of my head who's done it, and they said it's beautiful. So I definitely want to give that one a go.
Yeah, so I've actually made a 100% shea butter soap, and it's fantastic to use. It does remind me a lot of olive oil soap. It's more of a creamy. It's like a what's that? Like a lotion. It feels like a lotion.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like a lotion.
It's nice and silky.
Yeah, silky. Yeah, silky, and just a tad waxy, because there are waxy esters in shea butter.
Yeah.
But I found, because I was making that for a while, and I ended up changing to 70% shea, 30% coconut.
Oh, that would be nice too. Yeah. You get a bit of a bubble.
Yeah. And I'll be happy to send you a couple of those bars if you like, just so you can have a try.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, because I love shea butter too. I'm shea butter crazy. So
it's so nice, especially when you get the raw organic stuff as well. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, the unrefined organic is beautiful. Especially the yellow one. The smell, it's just
yes,
smell is incredible.
Quite lucky. I've got a Baraka shea butter representative literally 5 minutes up the road from where I live. Wow. So I can go and pick up buckets.
Oh, yeah, that's great. That's excellent. And what are your favorite additives to work with in terms of colorings or markers or any additives like sodium lactate or whatever? What are some of the staple ingredients you love working with additives?
Oh, see, there's just too many. Too many to choose from. If I had to pick, it would have to be the colour and the fragrance that goes into soap. I think that we are just so guided by our sensory feels. So I just feel, I know people do like unscented and plain bars of soap, which I do cater for, but I feel that colour is what drives us, and then the smell and colour combine together. So I always try and get those two aspects into soap, and so that would have to be my favourite sort of things to add into every single soap I make. If I'm not adding fragrance into a soap, it needs to have something that brings through a natural aroma, so something like honey or cocoa butter, oatmeal, something like that, to give it a real natural smell. But I do like my soaps to have that little bit of smell in them.
Oh, yeah, cocoa butter, yum. Chocolate.
I tease the neighbour's kid with it. Smell this.
Well, funny story.
He always thinks he can eat it. It's like, you can't eat it. It won't taste nice.
Well, funny story. Because I make some soaps with cocoa butter, and it smells a bit like chocolate. And I didn't label them. I gave a few to my sister's friend. So she left them on the kitchen table at her house. And she ended up ringing my sister that night, and she was like, chucking a hissy fit that her husband's stupid and whatever. He came home from work and he thought there were chocolate bars.
Oh, wash your mouth out with soap, as they say.
So he picked it up and he took a bite from it.
Oh, yeah.
And then he spat it out and he used colourful language. What the hell's this? And she goes, what's wrong with you? It's not to eat, it's soap. And he's like, what do you mean it's soap? And she goes, to wash your body with, soap.
Oh dear. I think that's the one thing though, when you live with a soaper, you always get asked, is that soap or is it food, before they actually eat it.
Oh gosh, that's true, very true. Right, so I guess my next question will be, what's your most popular bar or recipe that you make in your range?
My most popular one's actually my Cleveland honey bar, which is my signature bar that I do. Going along that line of what's my favourite additives, this is one of the very few that has fragrance in it. It actually has locally sourced honey and beeswax, and it has the oatmeal and cocoa butter to give it that sort of aroma. But I did originally develop it for people who were wanting the unscented soaps, no colour or anything like that. They just wanted a plain bar. It's also a free soap that I do, and it sells really well, especially if we've got tourists in the area, because it's something that they can take away with them. Has local ingredients, so it's one of my most popular ones, and also my favourite to make.
So that's also your favourite one to make, right? Okay, excellent. And what's another bar that's like fairly popular but also very difficult to make, but you still make it because you like the finished product and your customers like it as well?
If anyone's watched the videos, they'll know that dragon's blood, that is always the hardest to make, but I have so many people that actually do like it that I continue to battle through it. So it always sets up super fast. The design has to be super simple on it, but it does sell really well, so I keep that one in the range.
Right. And what was that one called again?
Dragon's blood.
Dragon's blood. That's right. I think I've seen that one. That's the one that seized up, wasn't it? Really quick.
Twice.
Oh yeah. Gosh, nothing makes a soap maker move fast like a seizing or fast tracing batter.
Yes. I said before, the trick is don't panic.
I had a very similar experience with. I've got my hands on this natural fragrance oil. It's called Mocha. And Aussie Candle Supplies sell that one.
Okay,
and beautiful. It smells great. But as soon as I put it in, and because I wasn't sure about how it was going to behave, so I coloured first, and then I put it in, whisked the fragrance in, and as soon as I started whisking, it turned like a rock.
It's a weird sensation as well when it sets up while you're stirring.
Well, what happened was because those 4 smaller batches, because it was a test batch, I used those smaller stock pots.
Yeah.
And the silicon spatula I was using, the head of it comes off, so it got stuck in, and then I went to go pull it out.
That's all you can do is laugh.
But I managed to save it. What I did was I just pulled the silicons out. I had my gloves on, so I literally scooped it out and was putting it in the mold. And
Oh, the things we do.
but it turned out okay. Like it's still all right. So
It's
I guess
still soap at the end of the day.
it still cleans. It still smells nice.
Yes.
Oh gosh, that's funny. The things we go through. And so obviously you sell online and you're at markets. Which markets are you at again?
So I do the Cleveland markets every Sunday, which is a little town about 20 minutes away from where I live.
Okay, right.
And the market's been going for just over 30 years now.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Wow.
It's a well-established market.
And you're in Brisbane?
Yeah, we're about halfway between Brisbane and the Gold Coast.
Oh, okay.
So
right.
an area called Redlands.
Okay. Right. Thought about maybe, do you sell like to retail stores? Do you wholesale your products at all, or?
I don't wholesale, and I have had products in the collective stores and decided that really wasn't the direction that I wanted my business to go.
Yeah.
I don't wholesale either. I basically want to be you have to come to me to buy my products sort of thing.
Yeah,
I find that works best for me. Some people do find wholesaling works for them. So, but I decided that I wanted people to come to me. So if they had questions, they would get the correct answers.
Yeah.
I just enjoy selling my own product and just felt that I could do it better. Yeah.
Fair enough. And do you ever get like interesting, because you're at the market, so you're dealing face to face. Do you ever get like, have you ever gotten inspired by a customer coming in and saying, oh, what about if you make? I'd really like, if you could make a soap like this, or would you think about making a soap like this? Have you got any inspiration from customers face to face?
Yeah, I've had quite a few customers ask me if I can do certain soaps, use certain ingredients, and as long as I think that it is going to be something that a lot of people would like, then I'll always have a go at making them for people. Originally, I was never going to do a lavender soap because everybody has a lavender soap. I had someone who came in, she had the design idea in her head of how she wanted it to look, and I thought, well, everyone likes lavender, we'll do it. And I did her design for a couple of years, and I have actually now changed it, but it always sells really well. I've also got another really popular one called Bergamot and Peppermint, and that was actually a design suggestion from a YouTube viewer. She sent me through what she would like to see in the soap, right down to the additives, the colours and everything else. And that's become a really popular soap as well. So I've had lots of people come into the store with ideas for new products and all sorts. Yeah.
And did you actually make a video in regarding to that particular request?
The Bergamot and Peppermint one? There is a video out for that one.
Okay, perfect. I'll include that as well in the description. Yes, so viewers can have a look. Yeah, perfect. Excellent. And so, like, I've watched a couple of your videos in regards to, a week with me in the studio, and how you set up the markets, and I can just imagine like the work behind like that goes on, and just like walk us through like at the end of it, like after the end of the week, and you've done your markets. How do you feel? Like, do you feel like you're tired? Do you feel like it must be a lot? It must be a lot.
It is a lot, but it is my full-time job. So I don't have to do anything else other than do what I do here. And I don't feel nearly as tired with everything I do here as what I did when I was working. So, and there's a lot more satisfaction in it. So, yes, it's a lot of hard work, a lot of hours. But it's that satisfaction of seeing people. I've had customers who have come back to the markets who, there's one particular girl, she's had really bad acne, and she bought some of my foaming face scrub, and she came back weeks later and she said thank you, and her face had really cleared up. So a combination of a few things she was doing, but she said the scrub just felt good, and I thought it's worth it. All this hard work is really worth it to help somebody. So there are weeks where I'm just absolutely shattered, but you kind of just push through it and know that it's all good at the end. There is a lot about, when I first started doing this full time, I used to put every waking hour into the business. If I was sitting watching TV, I'd be doing something for the business. I never stepped away from it, whereas what I have learnt now is to take at least one day a week, and then after a certain hour at night, I'm not allowed to touch the computer and that sort of thing, and that really helps balance the work life.
Because that was going to be my next question. Like, what advice would you give for work-life balance? Like work-life balance and managing it, because it's really easy to fall in the trap of 24/7 go, not resting, not giving yourself enough time to relax and have a good sleep. So what other things would you recommend?
Really have to treat it like a job. Like it is a 9 till 5 job that you go to, even if you don't work 9 till 5. I basically, in summer, I will work maybe 7 till 3, 7 till 4, and then in winter it'll be 8 till 5. So I do alter my time according to, what the weather's doing and things like that, but I still only make sure I work an 8-hour day. I take a half an hour lunch break, so I actually walk away for half an hour and go and sit elsewhere and eat like I would at work. So I do very much treat it like it is a job. And I do take, when we take a day off, we literally go away from the house, so I can't do anything. I can't just quickly pop into the shed and work on something. I think it is just so important to treat it like a job, and when you do that, you'll actually find yourself to be far more productive. If you're at it 24/7, you tend to spend more time procrastinating because you've got all day to do something, whereas if you've only got 8 hours to complete 4 tasks, you'll get all those tasks done plus something else. So you do become more productive if you reduce the time. It sounds weird, it works.
I know what you mean. That's excellent. That's really good advice. And so what advice also would you give? Is there any other advice, just like overall, in terms of work-life balance? Like, I know you've given some examples. Is there anything else that you do, like personally, that you think that might help other people that they might not know about as well? Like, especially when we're talking about before, not everything's rainbows and butterflies. Is there sometimes something you have to do for your emotional and mental well-being as well?
Usually I have 2 sort of groups of people that I talk to. I have mainly my family, who know nothing about what I do in here, so I can actually vent to them, and because they don't have a clue about what I'm talking about, they'll just sit and listen. And then I have those people who know what I'm doing, who know what I'm going through, and I can vent to them and get a completely different perspective. And I think having 2 completely different groups of people really helps you balance what you're doing, because it will give you might be thinking, times are really slow. Is it just me? I must be doing something wrong. And one group of people will be saying, no, it's just that nobody's doing well right now. Everybody's slow. It's that time of year. And then, another group will be telling you, oh, you must be doing this wrong. So you need to find 2 groups of people to talk to who are going to help you through the tough times, the happy times, and all that sort of thing. And I'm pretty lucky that I do have some great soap making friends who I can have a whinge with, and then I have those that don't know what I'm talking about and will put my head back straight and saying, well, actually, stop and think about what you're saying, and then it gets you back in the straight and narrow again. Yeah. And you just get through it. It's all about enjoying the journey where you can.
Yeah, yeah. And that's actually another important topic, the highs and lows, like that, you know, that you're going to go through quiet times, and what in those quiet times do you use that in, like, do you know, because it can feel like a negative thing, but do you use it as a positive thing, as a creative outlet to maybe think of new designs or think of where you can come back, in a sense, like when things start to pick up again, you've got like new soap designs and products, and it'll kind of be like an eye-opener. Is that something that happens for you in your quiet times?
Definitely. It took me a couple of years to realise that's what I needed to do, rather than, you know, sitting watching a movie because there was no business. I then started to think, well, let's use this time wisely and do things like test new ideas and you do more research and that sort of thing, and find out different ways of promoting yourself. And so definitely using those quiet times, because when you first start, those quiet times do seem quite long and quite empty, but the longer you go, the shorter those quiet times do become, and you become very, very grateful for those quiet times where you can actually redevelop. And if you are looking to rebrand or anything like that, that's the perfect time to start looking at doing it, so that you're not like detracting from the other work that you have to do in busy times. It's so hard to develop new products around Christmas when you're trying to keep on top of all your other products. So that quiet time's the best time to plan your whole year out, do your testing, development, and everything else. So they can actually be a positive. They are hard to get through. There's no denying that. You will have a day where you just feel really sad and let down, but then you just got to pick yourself up and work something out.
Yeah, so use the time wisely. Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent advice, And also, like, at the markets, like, probably now because you're more well-known, so I think you're pretty flat out do you do the markets every weekend?
Every Sunday, yeah.
Every Sunday, yeah. So I think,
we do have quiet times, though. Especially, it does fluctuate with season as well. So, as you know, at the moment we're in winter, so all the sensible people are still in bed at 7 o'clock in the morning while the rest of us are freezing our butts off down there. So for the first couple of hours in the morning, I'm generally there from 5 o'clock in the morning setting up. We start at 7, but we don't start to see customers coming through till 9:30, 10 o'clock in winter. So I use those first couple of hours to kind of plan my week for what I need to make, what days I'm going to make it on, what new products I want to do, any of the other sort of things I need to do. I use those first few hours for planning, researching, because I have my laptop with me, so I can research different ingredients and stuff like that. In summer, it's the opposite. Everyone comes out they're usually there at 6:30 to buy stuff, and by the time we get to 10:30, everyone's disappeared. So I use those last couple of hours again to do the same thing. So it's about using your time wisely during those sort of times. When I am busy at the market, I can't do any of that stuff. So it is a matter of using the time when you've got it.
Yeah. Okay, that's excellent advice. And do you think in winter it's people avoiding it being too cold in the morning, so they come later?
Yeah.
In summer, I want to avoid the heat wave, so I come earlier.
It's the same every year.
Because in Queensland and Brisbane and stuff, is quite humid. It's quite hot in summer.
It's very hot in summer. By the time we get to lunchtime, we can have 32 to 35 degrees, 80 plus humidity. The concrete's really hot because we're a concrete market. It's really hot, which makes it even worse. So, and it's all open air. We've got our gazebos, but it's in the middle of a street, so there's no trees and that sort of thing to keep us shaded. They definitely come early in the morning in summer.
Yeah. And do you find, I wouldn't know because I don't live in a tropical climate, but do you find living in a tropical climate, especially in summer, it's harder to make soap, or is it easier to make soap?
Definitely harder.
Yeah.
I do feel, I don't know whether it's been proven or not, but I do feel that humidity really, really affects how soap behaves. I feel that it usually chases a lot quicker when it's really, really humid.
Yeah.
I know several people have also said the same thing, that they find that it does really accelerate on the humid days.
Mm-hmm.
So usually I try and get as much done the early part of summer, and then throughout summer, and then I just can't get any soaps made because and then this year, or last year, my dad put air conditioning into my shed for me so I could make soap. Right. And then this year it broke down.
Oh, gosh.
So I was all set to make soap, and I thought, this summer I can actually make new designs. And it took 6 weeks to get it actually fixed. So for the whole 6 weeks of summer, I still didn't get to make any soaps. And it was just so hard because I'd anticipated having the air conditioning unit. I hadn't done the soaps beforehand.
Okay, yeah.
So I literally ran out of soap.
Yeah, wow, okay, wow.
I won't make that mistake again.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, yeah. I find because I don't know, how cold does it get in Brisbane? Does it in winter? What's the lowest temperature it gets in?
Well, see, I'm a wuss, so I say it gets really cold. We've had, there's some mornings I go out to markets and it's about 7 degrees when we get down there. Okay, so it's when you don't get really, really cold, that is very cold. I know some areas get down into -1s, -2s. If out in Ipswich Way, which is about an hour from here, they do get into the negatives. We're pretty much coastal where we are, so we get a lot of the warm breeze come in, which does keep it that little bit warmer. But most of the winter will get down to maybe 7 as the lowest, but most of the time it's around 10, 11. And then the days, we can get up to about 22 to 25. Today, I'm looking at 19. I've got a thermometer in here. It's rainy and gloomy today, so it's quite cold.
Right. And okay, so that's summer. So obviously humidity traces the soap quicker. So I guess when it's cold, does it behaves itself more? Does it? I
find in winter I have to soak a little bit warmer, so I have to have my oils on lie just that little bit warmer, so you don't get the false trace from it being almost solidified back. But I do find it so much easier to soap in the cooler months.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah.
Victor as well.
Yeah. Definitely. So some say a soap journey never ends. We continuously be inspired and we're learning. Would you say that's a true statement?
I believe that is true. I've always had this very, very strong belief throughout life that the minute we stop learning and we stop being inspired, that's the end. So if you decide that you want to learn anything else, not necessarily the end, if you decided there is nothing else to learn and nothing else is going to inspire you, that's the end of your soap making journey, and you move on to something else. So while you are on this journey, you're always going to be learning, you're always going to be inspired, and that's what keeps it alive.
Yeah, very true. And I just, because I haven't been soap making very long. I've started just shy of 4 years ago, and I was just making soap before I started selling. And even now, even though I've learned so much, it's never ending. There's always something new. Yeah. There's always some new additive, or maybe I should try this, or maybe I should try that fragrance, or it's always changing. And I find even now, even 6 months ago now, I'm making soap slightly different. Every 6 or so months, 6+ months, they go by, I find that my technique changes just a little, not a huge amount, but it just gets a little bit, more efficient and a little better. I assume it would be the same for you as well.
I'm constantly learning and constantly making mistakes as well. And I believe that we need to make mistakes to learn and to get better, and to also realise we're human as well. We have to make these mistakes. And as I said earlier, you can make happy mistakes as well. You may stumble across something new and exciting, but there's just so much out there. There's ingredients that have been around for many, many years, but I've only just discovered. So there's always something out there to play with and to be inspired by and to experiment with.
Yeah. And is there anything that, like, in your range now that was an accident, like a happy accident?
I can't think of any off the top of my head. I think I can't think of any of them. I mean, a lot of them, there has been experimenting with ingredients to see how things come together. So a lot of the sort of lotions and creams. Okay. I know that one day I went to make my my standard moisturiser that I'd been making for years, and I ended up picking up the wrong oil. I was meant to put in camellia oil and ended up putting olive oil in instead, and loved the feel of it. So I actually did change the recipe. Okay. And decided that was the best way of doing that. In terms of soap, I've made accidents, but no real happy ones at the moment. Like the time that I put polysorbate 80 instead of castor oil. That doesn't work. What doesn't quantify at all. My castor, it was at a time when I was only buying small amounts, and the castor oil and the polysorbate 80 came in the same bottle. Okay, right. And it was the same colour, same viscosity. After I'd made 3 loaves of soap, what I'd done. And I worked out that polysorbate 80 does not saponify.
Oh gosh. But there are times, like I have put the complete wrong essential oil in the blender, and sometimes I don't even smell them. I just mix them and I kind of put them aside and I put the lid on them, and then I come to adding them at trace. Instead of adding like a lavender, I've added like a rose geranium or something, and not because rose geranium accelerates trace. So I'm there mixing. I'm thinking, I've got plenty of time. It's lavender, and then all of a sudden it goes up. Like, what's going on? And then I smell the pot, and it's rose. Like, oh my gosh, I've put the wrong essential oil in. So sometimes I think, and I'll ask you this as well. Do you sometimes go into automatic mode that you're just not really thinking about what you're doing? It's just automatic.
Sometimes, but I have some really weird automatic modes, and hubby laughs at me for it, because one of the things going along what you've done with your essential oils is every time I pick an oil up or a bottle of something, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a carrier oil, a fragrance oil, or an essential oil, I open it and smell it. Okay, and it's just it's natural instinct. So even the fragrance oils I absolutely hate, I still open it and smell it, and it's become this automatic thing that I do. And it's like people say, why do you do it? And it's like, I think it's I'm making sure I'm picking up the right thing each time. And it's like you get to know what your carrier oils smell like. So you when you open it up, you know, well, oh no, that doesn't smell right. And it's just become this sort of automatic pilot thing that I do. So it kind of works well for me to have that. But I do know what you mean about going into automatic mode. It's something that I do. I come into the workshop and I do things automatically in a certain order to actually open up for the day. But that is one thing I do automatically, is smell everything that I put into my products.
That's actually a good lesson for me to take on board. Start sniffing what you take off the shelf.
I did it after I'd done one too many of picking up the wrong fragrance oil to go in my candles. And when you colour a lavender candle in bright red, it's really hard to sell because it just doesn't smell right. So I got into this thing of smelling the fragrance oil every time I made a candle to make sure I was getting the right ones, and it's just flowed through into all the soaping stuff as well.
All right. So everyone, pay attention. Smell when you open a bottle, either carry oil or essential oil, because I've made that mistake way too many times.
Even the ones you don't like.
Yes, and Keeley here has mastered not doing it. So, oh gosh, fantastic. Okay, so that comes to the end of the video. Thanks so much, Keeley.
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed this chat.
That's been really good. Good laugh.
Oh, thank you. I'm sure now that we're connected, we'll keep in touch and say hello.
Definitely.
And so thanks so much. And I know a lot of my viewers on my channel, I've just mentioned to a few people, I didn't want to, because I wasn't sure when we were going to do this, in case your schedule changes. But I know some of my viewers are really excited to see Keeley from Soy Shea. So
thank you.
Thanks again, and we'll chat soon. And I'll just forward me a PO box or wherever you're comfortable me sending those cocoa shea bars for you.
Will do.
No problems. All right. So we'll chat soon and take it easy.
See ya.
Yeah. Bye.